Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world, and thank you for joining me for this catch-up for the Tale of Many Gamers project, this time looking at the month of April. There's only a couple of months left now before we attend an event in Lansing hosted by Incursion Events and bring this collection campaign, this project, to a conclusion. Now, unfortunately, not all of us are going to be playing at this event, partly because one of the people involved in the project, Luke, is the event organizer, so he's going to be TOing. Paul from Epic Flow, he's going to be, I understand, streaming the event, so again won't be able to compete himself, which leaves myself and Rob as the only people so far to have definitely signed up. We'll hear from one of the other participants later that they may or may not be available for it. Hopefully they are, but we'll see what happens. And as for Tim, I believe he's away at the time, so unfortunately won't be able to join us. So, all that aside, let's dive into the core, where we see how we've got on with our collecting, our playing, and also hear about the developing meta and how we can improve at least one of our lists. Okay. All right, chaps, thank you very much for joining me today for the April catch-up for the Tale of Many Gamers. A slightly different cast of faces to last time, as I think real life has probably kicked in a little bit for Paul and Luke, and they've got other things going on. Bit of a shame, but we'll make do with what we have. So, the viewers joined today by Rob, Tim, and Liam. Liam, I think you've just come back from your latest event, so that's going to be something that's quite interesting to hear about, particularly as I think the rest of us, while we're preparing for potentially an event in June, that will be our first one for the old world, so it'll be good to see what's happening outside of our little bubble. So I suppose the big question really over the past month is really how has our collecting, painting, gaming been getting on with all things Warhammer Old World. Tim, you're in a corner on my screen, so I'll start with you. I suppose everyone's in a corner. Yeah. There's four of us.
Let's do it. So hobby-wise, all I've done, turn my light on for this. All I've done is I've painted one of my sorcerers. So it's one of the old.
That's pretty cool.
It's like a resin one.
Nice.
Rockbringer sorcerer. Really like the model. Painted up because I'm going full in on sorcerers. I have 2 level 4s in my list at the moment. That might be a mistake because I keep losing games, but I'm excited about it. So he's painted up, and I haven't done any more hobbying because I'm really struggling to know what a good list looks like and where I should put my effort in, and what I should paint up. I played 1 or 2 games. Michael, was our game at the King and Queen? Did we talk about that last catch up?
No, that's a new one. That's a new one.
Okay. So we played a game which I lost very, very badly. But at the end of that, I felt like I misplayed in a lot of ways. Like I wasn't aggressive enough with my movement, and I gave you too many turns of shooting, and your cannons just did real damage to lots of my units. So I came away from that one, like really learnt some lessons about how to tackle Empire. And the other game, I just came back from playing Dom at Dice Saloon, our local gaming cafe. And he's got a dwarves list, but it's very fair, I would say. He's got 2 cannons and some shooting, but also lots of melee. So it's not like... Sorry, that's not a dig at you, Rob. But it's not a full gunline list. And I had a great game, like lots of fun. He's a great guy, good opponent. But I feel a little bit frustrated because, again, I lost really hard. But I feel like I did everything right. Like... By turn 2, I had everything in my army had charged and was in combat, which is really good against a list with lots of guns. I used like Steed of Shadows. I've got 2 wizards, both with demonology. So I've got Steed of Shadows, which just give an infantry unit fly 12. I put that on 2 units, zoom them up the board, ready to charge next turn. And then I use my dogs to screen my chosen knights and my Chaos Lord, so I'm able to get them into charge positions and not take any. I only lost 2 models in his first turn, and then in turn 2 I've got everything as charged. And you think, okay, that's a great starting point for Warriors of Chaos against Dwarves. But what happened is just like I didn't kill anything. I just like was slowly chopping away for the whole game, and then the game's over, and he's got 1,000 points, and I haven't killed a single unit basically. And so, yeah, I'm really like I'm struggling to know what to put in my list. I mean, maybe I just have to put a dragon. Maybe I have no choice but putting a dragon with a Chaos Lord buffed to hell and back. Maybe that's how I win. And like, I have seen some tournament results that suggest Warriors of Chaos are very strong. I don't know how much I can trust those, but I don't know what's strong. Maybe it's just a dragon. So, yeah, those are my updates. Just feeling a little like lost at the moment about where to take my army next.
It's perhaps worth pointing out, I assume he's taken the same sort of list as I've played Dom as well in the last couple of weeks. His dwarves come stacked to the gunnels with runes of don't charge me or else. So if you do then charge, you've got disrupted charge, or he's got bonuses and all the rest of it. So which isn't perhaps great for a warrior block that wants to charge to then lose a lot of its benefits.
Kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if I don't charge I get shot. It's feeling a little. I'd be keen to hear. Well, Liam, you've played. I think, Michael, I'm probably the only Warriors of Chaos you've played, and Rob, we haven't played yet. But Liam, have you played any Warriors of Chaos? I'm really keen to hear what your experiences of them are.
The dragon's clearly good, but it's not the be all and end all of the list. It's like against that dwarf matchup, the dwarf player's big challenge is getting the right runes in the right places during deployment.
Yep.
So if you're if he's got the rune of hesitation, so you no charge bonuses, then charge him with, or one that stops you getting their weapon choice when you charge, impact it, that kind of thing. Then put that up against great weapon warriors. So actually you don't care, because you've not got lancers, you've not got spears, you've not got impact hits. It doesn't do anything. And the same with the Rune of Confusion. So you don't get that high initiative, you don't get the bonus initiative when charging, which is usually kind of loitering on hammer units.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, I actually did both of those things. So I had my ogres go into no charge bonus. They do have a charge bonus, but it doesn't matter really. Yeah. So I've got my great
impact you're losing, right? With the ogres?
Yeah, if every rank of ogres you get an impact hit, but I didn't have a rank because I was playing them wide. And then my warrior block, which loses its initiative bonus, actually have the play I'm doing with that is they have the Banner of Rage, so they're permanently frenzied. But then in the block is a character with an aura of fights last. So I don't care if I charge you or you charge me, you're fighting last either way, and I'm getting 2 attacks either way. So I got both those lineups that you described, but I don't know, the maths.
It sounds a little dicey then, because if you've got a decent sized warrior block with if you're 7 wide, you're getting 14, 15 attacks under that setup. You're hitting on 4s against dwarves most of the time, and then winning on 2s if you've got great weapons. You're just using hand weapons.
Ogres were winning on 2s or 3s. The warriors were winning on 4s.
You should kill more of them than they kill of you.
Yeah. I was winning combats, but I just couldn't make him run away, and then he had more things to put into the sides of me, and so it was just a big tar pit in all directions. And
one thing I would say with if they've got the dwarfs lined up 1, 2, 3, 3 units, if you can take a couple of small units of dogs and just put them 1 inch in front of their flanking unit, don't charge. So you charge into a 1 on the left, put your dogs in front of the 1 on the right, and then just 1 inch he charges in his turn and reforms when it's got your turn back to his. So you get 3 rounds of combat before the retaliation.
Yeah.
rather than like maybe setting it up so that you can do it as an overrun kind of situation.
Right.
And like pick your fights. You're faster. Try and pick your fights a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
warriors around, like knights around the side, win combat by enough that you can't potentially fall back in good order if you outnumber.
Everything
So
has
it's up to the
stubborn though,
opponent.
so everything gets one fallback and
Not
good
Yeah.
order.
not every
Yeah.
well, not everything has stubborn. Only certain units have
Right.
stubborn.
Okay. It had stubborn.
Mhm.
Yeah. Obviously, I've still got lots to learn about playing the game well, but this game in particular, I just felt like I'd done everything right, and just I didn't feel like my rolls were awful, but
I think dwarfs are a really solid army, but they want to sit there and grind.
yeah.
So you either hit them hard enough that they can't, like
Yeah.
putting in, as they say, come back to the dragon, but put the dragon in along with a unit with a champion in. Champion can take that challenge. Dragon gets to wreak havoc on the unit and actually kill. Probably what you're looking at 8 to 10 dwarfs on an average rolls.
Yeah.
And then from that point, your dragon's now not outnumbering solo, but it's like half the outnumber you need to break in that one turn outside of stubborn.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about picking matchups on the table where you can. And again, dragon with fly lets you do that a lot easier than just about anything else in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm keen to get to some more events and play some more matchups, because I think if I played how I play, like the tactics I played today against anything squishy, I'm just gonna steamroll them like Skaven or goblins or something. It's a lot swingier. Yeah.
I mean, go on.
I say stubborn, like just blocks of dwarfs. I really like. I know we don't kill much, but 4+ save, toughness 4, it's their selling point.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it's going to feed back into how my games have gone. Being the dwarf player, and I'll take the natural segue. I've played 8 games between Warhol and real life with you guys, right? Yeah. I've noticed on Warhol that my dwarf melee army does nothing. Once you take into account people, I think the first time you play someone, they let the runes work. They let you grind off, and you don't die. You can't, you kill 2 or 3 models each turn. They kill 2 or 3 models. You fall back. It happens again and again and again and again and again. What starts to fight I've found is, once you take into account any high mobility armies, Tomb Kings, Bretonians, I had it with Empire Knight army, where you have, as a general principle of dwarves, you're going to have 3 blocks roughly. You can probably get 4 if you go for cheaper tier infantry. But I found that the cavalry would be like, I'm going to pick out that far left unit. I'm going to set it up so that I can hit something in the front and something in the flank. And I will lose 75% of my models. I don't get to fight back. I can then, if they've got any screen, like Liam was saying, I can't get round far enough, and my 2 units on the far right never get in. But by the time they've turned, moved, you're talking round 4 or 5, and that main unit's broken. In fact, against my Tomb King player, I was getting outnumbered by terror and just running. Once he starts putting in dragon, the big sphinx thing, even with great weapons, I'm causing 1 or 2 wounds. The dragon has the 4 up ward save, 4 up armor save, half toughness 6, make me re-roll my wounds to hit him.
Clearly not all of that in one go, but
well, no, it's what's the armor that means that you re-roll wounds, and
so armor of ages is on armor, but the 4+ ward comes on an armor as well. So it's either re-roll wound 5+ ward.
It might have been a 5+ ward, to be fair. All I knew is I just could 1 wound was going through on this thing all day long, right? And I wasn't losing much. It would be a grind game. We'd go backwards and forwards, and then at the end of the game, I would have lost by 150 points. But I was not winning because the way the victory conditions work in the book. I wasn't winning games. I was always ever so slightly losing games. and I played a game. I thought, do you know what? Screw this. I'm going to play a gun line. That's how I used to play, and I've got the models for 3K. Part of my modelling, I've actually spent the whole month putting underway like tiles all across my army, and I think you've seen it, Michael. Like, that was my hobby project for this month. I wanted to try a full-on gun line, and I've played 3 games. I've played Michael once, I played the other Dom, and I've played Luke. And I don't think this is the fun way of playing Warhammer, but for a tournament army, I don't think I've lost more than 500 points across all 3 games. Okay, and I just like stomped all of my opponents, not flat, but like it was pretty clear it was 1,500 points or more difference in those armies. I have yet to play a Bretonian army with this gun line because I suspect I'll just get squashed. You know, they're going to be in on me on turn 2, and I think your Flying Chaos, this might do the similar thing. I've just been struggling with the melee list after that first game with an opponent. I think they know what the dwarves do, and you then don't have an answer because you're very slow.
I mean, what you were saying there, like, I think that's one of the things this game does really well, is that triangle of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
So, like, infantry grinding lists can actually take the punch from cavalry and grind it down, but cavalry will rush a gun line, but a gun line can't kill enough infantry, or kills the slow infantry, because it's got 3 turns to shoot, 4 turns to shoot with a bit of redirect. And it's just really nice trying to get those matchups on the table to fit how you want to play and where you need them. I think that's where player expression comes in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And some of that rock, paper, scissors is like baked into the rules as well. Like, oh, you don't get your regen against flaming attacks if you're, what's that, Tomb Kings, right? So
If you're flammable.
Yeah. So there's very much like against some armies you just don't get your save, right? And in other armies you do. And I have like Warriors of Chaos, all war hand weapons and magic attacks. That's probably bad for some matchup. I don't know who's hurt by magical attacks.
As an example, or a lot of the I've been playing with high magic quite a lot, and making a unit ethereal is fantastic. Not so great against.
Until you get magic attacks. So it feels like it's a game that is best played in a large meta or in an event where you get lots of matchups, and it's maybe less enjoyable if you play the same like handful of people, because like there's going to be like unbalancedness in that way. Yeah,
and like just on that, I've done 3 events now. I've done high elves in every event, but when I'm playing in the local slow grow, I'm taking a different army, or I've recently done a different one, a third one for quick play as well, just to shake it up so that I'm not playing the same people, the same list week in, week out, and actually I'm filling in many gaps within a meta kind of thing on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I found very much a similar sort of environment to Rob, where I started off with my Empire army and I want ranks and flags and all this sort of stuff because it's what an Empire army should look like. In my head anyway, that's what it should look like. And over many, many beatings, it's gradually tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. So it's actually looking more like the second-rate gun line version of Rob's to a certain extent. There's gradually more troops, because I just found, I know some people are saying how great state troops are for Empire, and they're really good at holding the line and stuff like that, but I tend to find anything comes into them and they just disintegrate so quickly. So the game against Dom is a great example. His combat dwarves, I think his Ironbreakers got in when I played him last week on turn 5, turn 6 I think it was. So they'd walked up the table, I'd shot them to smithereens, there weren't that many left. They had the king, a small number of Ironbreakers. They went into my veteran state troops with spears, which had my BSB in it as well, and my unit just collapsed utterly, which turned it from being quite a comfortable victory to one where you're looking at it going, oh, a few more points either way, and this would have been a big swing. They just seem to fold so quickly. overall, though, I think for me it's been a really good month. So I've finally hit the point where I've now got a 2,000 point army that is fully painted, albeit two of my standards snapped last week. So I now need to go and get some milliput or something to try and fix them, because they're Mantic standards poles and they're really super thin. So if I just glue them, they're just going to fall apart again. So I need to try and bulk out that join a little bit. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, and I've got 4 games under my belt as well. So I had the game against Rob, which was my slightly less gunliney army than my gunline is now. And I always look at it, the Empire, I think, is very much a counter-attack army. So I want you to come to me, and then I want to try and hit units on the break a little bit. But going into Rob, because he had such a good firepower advantage, I had to push the attack, which meant my stuff just... It was a crazy game where basically if I could roll a double one when I didn't want it, it happened. But yeah, I think my artillery did no damage turn 1, or maybe pinked a wound off somewhere. It was a bit crazy, but it went to, I think, show that if you're pushed off your game plan, it actually can have some quite big consequences in Old World, particularly if you're geared up to doing a particular thing. Played Luke with his dragon. That was interesting. First time I've played a dragon. I've done a video on it. I probably didn't play that as sensibly as I probably should have done, partially because I just wanted to see what a dragon actually does, and to see if you do let a dragon run riot, actually is that as bad as you think it is. And I think in that game it ended up in a melee with my knights in general for the whole game. It didn't do a lot, but taking out my knights in the general actually did generate quite a few points. But the big takeaway from that game, I think, was actually the Tomb Kings healing themselves is massive, and you can throw your body weight of gunshots at a unit and they're just going to all get back up again if you're not lucky. Which is massively problematic when they're coming marching down the middle at you. So that was all of that leading to perhaps I ought to put a volley gun in, and yes, I definitely need a steam tank and a bunch of cannon, and so I do seem to be just putting more and more guns on the table at the moment. And I'll echo what Rob says. I don't think it's actually a particularly fun way of playing the game, sort of sitting back and just hoping to shoot someone to death. It certainly isn't an army I'd want to take on. Like if Paul starts doing Old World streams, I wouldn't want to take that sort of mindset to, particularly if I ended up playing Rob, where we just stood at opposite sides of the board shooting at each other and hoping the other person goes away. So yeah, it's not the most riveting. Although I think when we were saying about the concerns with Bretonians, when I've played Paul's Bretonians, who, it's probably not the full-on meta list, but it's probably quite a strong Bretonian list, I think he's got. Because you know you're almost certainly going to get the first turn, because he'll give it up to prey. Lots of heavy artillery going into lance formations can do quite a bit of damage. So if you've got a unit of 6 Grail Knights, a decent cannonball will take half of them turn 1 before he even gets to move. And because he doesn't run the 3 units of 5 Peg Knights or whatever it is I've seen floating around on the internet, and actually has Grail Knights and Knights of the Realm. One of the games I had with him with vanguarding Outriders, they sort of just push up into range, a massive firepower, and you can break a flank if you get a bit of rub of the green before the game even really starts. That really hurts then the Bretonians, because if you start taking out their hard hitters. But when that doesn't work, then he's on you turn 2, and then the army just falls apart. So it's very much a luck of the dice. Whoever gets the best turn 1 wins. Which is a bit unusual, I think, because most games seem a bit swingier than that and a bit more interesting. But there does seem an awful lot of, if something goes wrong turn 6, then the game changes on its head completely. Which I have to say, I do quite like that, because it's not like 40k where if you're in a bad spot by the end of turn 2, you're pretty much doomed, and it's very hard to come back from. Certainly from my perspective anyway. So but overall I think I've definitely learnt a lot about my list, and now I'm just working on some variants to not just take the gun line, so I can throw a few fun angles in it, hopefully, before I move on to my next project in the second half of the year. So yeah, I suppose that's it from my perspective of progress over the past month. Liam, so over to you then, and your many tournaments.
There's many tournaments. It's
Well,
like
3.
yeah, I'm quite lucky that being Nottingham based, opposed to you guys, that there are loads of places wanting to do and jump on it from the off. And I reckon over TSN Arena, Rob's ran 4, 5 to the 5th one, being a team event this weekend.
Oh.
So if I've got a spare weekend, which at a premium, but get to do them occasionally, get to do that. But I've been taking high elves. So did one at 1750 up at Sanctuary. It was kind of a reduced version of my full 2000, like a smaller dragon, little less toys on units, that kind of thing. Went okay. Did a 2000 point at Rob's about a month ago. Think I played in that. Played against, who was it? Beast, Warriors of Chaos. I can't remember. There's 5 different armies anyway, is the point I was trying to make. Lots of variation out there. And finished second in that, going 4-1.
That's good.
Overall. And then this weekend, been at a team event. So 6 teams of 4, full round robin, 5 rounds. Every team plays every other team. Throughout the weekend, our team came 3rd out of the 6, so I'm content with that as a finishing place.
That's really good.
Personally went 5-0 over the course of the weekend. A couple of very close games, one good win and a couple of comfortable 20-0s in there. Obviously, we're all play 20-0s. We're playing on the 20-0 sliding scale, where it's 100 points for a win, and then every 200 points after it shifts that metric.
Okay.
So the more you win by, the more points you get, like a 10-10, 11-9, 12-8, and that's used for either primary scoring in the case of this weekend, so each team was effectively playing for a share of 80 points each round, or when only singles, it's still doing win-loss as a primary metric, and then this is a first tiebreaker after that, so it kind of rewards winning big. And as I was saying earlier with some of the way that you were talking, Michael, about a counter-attacking army, and armies having one trick sometimes, like the gun line does one trick. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you're going to get tabled. And I kind of think that when you're building lists, you should be making them able to play a bit of both. Like you're saying, it's not fun always to focus on that one aspect. So, as an example from this weekend, I had 3 games where my dragon stayed behind my line for 3 or 4 turns. And it's just this big arc of you can't walk into it unless you're prepared to take a dragon to the face, plus whatever else I can throw into support. And I had a couple of games where a dragon YOLO'd forward on turn 1, and it's more powerful than me in the shooting phase, through magic or shooting. And I've got a limited amount of elves to live through that turn. And if I make it on turn 2, I'm probably good. If I make it on turn 3, maybe. If I get in now on turn 4, I'm nowhere near playing this game. So just don't give people a chance to take me off, basically. I don't know. It's kind of saying that we've mentioned about writing a list to go on Paul's stream when he starts doing old world ones. It's like no one wants to see a boring game of Warhammer.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not that people don't want to see a boring game of Warhammer. No one wants to play a boring game of Warhammer.
Yeah.
It's like I did 15 hours of gaming this weekend, 5 3-round rounds. I've spent 3 hours opposite someone on a table. I don't want the game to be not enjoyable for myself or them. And prime example was probably in my first game this weekend, playing a very heavy scream heavy vampire list. We deployed opposite corners and effectively shifted our forces around, and I picked up in a small, like 200 I only killed 270 points or something in the entire game, but it was enough for a small win because they killed less. But it's knowing the limitations of what you can do, and knowing that if I do actually send it into that list, I'm not killing enough, I'm getting screamed off, and like, that's not enjoyable for me. So I'm just gonna not play that game. As miserable as it sounds, sometimes you have to, and especially in a team event. Like, I'm not ruining it for 3 other people.
I think one of the things that would be quite interesting, I think, because for us down in Sussex, we've got a relatively small group of us playing at the moment that picked this up. So, and 2 of the people who are playing dwarves. So we've got 2 dwarf players. We've got a Bretonnian player, so Paul, who plays very occasionally. Team King's Warriors of Chaos Empire. So we've not got a huge diverse range of things. So with high elves, as we don't have any elves at all in our group until Brandon sorts out his wood elves. What is it that makes high elves tick?
I wouldn't say it's something in particular that makes them tick. So prior to release, I was like, living like so I want to go to play at Warhammer World.
Yeah.
So I wanted an army of Games Workshop models, and my options were wait until Tomb Kings or Bretonnians are released, wait for one of the ones that are going to be coming shortly after that, like orcs or dwarfs at some point in the next God knows when, or pay through the nose on eBay. So I just kind of shifting between high elves and wood elves. So picked up a few units of each to convert from the AOS Rangers. And the reason I went for high elves in the end is it was a varied army. It's kind of the elite version of the Empire. So it's like Empire get Reach-Guard Knights, elves get Dragon Princes. You get Great Swords, I get Swordmasters. You get the veteran state troops, we get Phoenix Guard. And that kind of comparison. And I wanted to, so it's making a rounded list and then using the tools you've got in that list. I've been talking with people over like magic lore choices, and high elves have a massive selection. I think they've got 4 or 5 lores you can pick from for the level 4 casters, and high magic is by no means the most damaging. It's by no means the most outright powerful. It's not got the best single buff out of the options you've got. It's definitely got not the most damage output. But what it's got is it's got a foot in every single one of those camps. And in nearly every situation, high magic is potentially the second best choice for what you want to do. Yeah. So take the second best choice in every scenario out of the 4 or 5 you've got, and you're still playing into a strength. Another example, I played against a full send high elf list earlier today. 2 big units of Silverhounds, big unit of Dragon Princes, 2 dragons. That's the entire, and 2 units of Sisters of Avalon at the back. Literally, it quite easy can YOLO it forward, and you've got a turn to kill it. If not, you're getting 2 dragons in the face, plus whatever Kev makes it in there. But I had a unit of Spearmen on one side with level 4. Just kept casting Walk Between Worlds. You only need like a 5 to get it off on 2d6 with a reroll. So as long as you make sure you're saving your list blessing once per turn reroll for that spell, then you're going to fairly reliably cast it. But what that meant was that there was this dragon that had to play around this quite wide unit's charge arc. It couldn't go in because it would just get combat their stuff. And it's making the most of what you've got in any situation. It might not always be the best you can do in any situation, but it's playing around that. And I think that doesn't just apply to high elves. It applies to just about any army in the game. I keep saying it, but the rounded army is 100% the way that I think the game should be played.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we'd all on board with that.
And you can take these lists that have one really good trick, like the gunline being one example for you guys, or the really popular around here at the moment, Scream Vampire lists, or double casket Tomb Kings with big units of Boyu Shakti and leadership debuffs. And it's great that they've got a trick, and it's a brilliant trick. But when you've seen that trick and you know how to play that trick, a bit like Rob was saying with dwarves, it's kind of, well, I'm just not going to play into that game. So, you can either change your list, or I'm going to do what I need to get the smallest win I can possibly get without putting points at risk. And I might not hammer my way to an event win, but you're not either. Yeah. And if you want to win, then you've got to think of something different.
Yeah, interesting. I think it mirrors one of the conversations we've been having on sort of our club nights, where, because again, there's only a few of us playing at the moment, I think there's a couple more people potentially interested further down the line, but because there's not that many of us, we've actually started. We've gone from the generalist lists, which we've then started to struggle with, to then actually becoming more and more specialised in the thing that we want to do. So we were having the conversation around, actually maybe this is reflective really of what we're seeing, because there's a small number of us playing down the club, and actually you throw us out into the big wide world, and this is not a good way to be going. But I suppose time will tell on that one to a certain extent as to whether gun lines will actually be appropriate for the wider world or not.
One of the ways that I heard it described this weekend was 40k is you guys mainly coming from a 40k background.
Yeah.
It's a spreadsheet game to a point. Yes, there's skill in putting the right models in the right places, but you all know how you're going to deploy before the game starts, because you've got the map, the fire arcs, the weapon ranges. And because of the way it snowballs, if you do a little bit over average, then that will then snowball into the next turn, because they've got a little bit less, you've lost a little bit less. And then next turn you've got a little bit more to shoot again, and it kind of works its way up, and it's never-ending chain once you get behind. Whereas the way that combat can be swingy, or a single high dice roll on a break test can decide a game in this, it's less of that.
Unless Shawn Michaels break tests, but yeah.
Yeah, my guys do like to run away. A lot.
I lost playing high elf today, we had 3 star dragons on the table. 2 of them were dead at the end of the game, and only one of them lost a single wound.
Oof.
Mine got combat rezzed off after failing passing a couple of regen saves, after getting charged by dragon princes and another star dragon, and it broke on using a 5 to stay, and broke. And then the following turn I charged into my opponent's general with a unit of spearmen, with my youth spearman unit. Walk Between Worlds went up, charged it with a small unit of archers, challenged out with the champion from the spearmen, and I think it was on a break test at -6 with nothing it could do about that. Yeah. And again, it's straight off the table, ran down by 5 archers. So I think there's more to it than just picking a style and playing to that style. And unfortunately, that only comes with playing games. Now, in this position, I get to play regular games.
I've just had my mind kind of blown and been inspired by you you're talking about playing a Scream vampire list and kind of circling each other, and that kind of feels, to an outsider, that might look like you're not really playing the game of Warhammer. But I just realised
we weren't playing the game of Warhammer.
Against Dom's dwarves, his guns have 24-inch range apart from the cannons, and my army's so elite that it was all out of line of sight turn 1 because I can put it behind things knowing that I can fly over them using Steed Shadows. So I could have just stayed where I was.
Yeah.
I could have just waited and had him walk his melee dwarves in front and block his own cannons, and now the game's very much more in my favour. But it just didn't even occur to me, like turn 1 of a game of Warhammer, that I might just stand still and not do anything.
But don't go out until turn 5,
Yeah.
So
yeah. When I played Dom last week, he helped me quite massively with his deployment because he wanted to experiment with castling up a little bit, and he ended up with his hammer block behind a unit of Thunderers, which was wonderful for me because I also chose to experiment with the move twice spell. Used it to move my knights, just the core knights with the general, up, keeping them right on the periphery of BSB range, knowing how much I like to roll 11s and 12s when it comes to break tests. But it meant I could completely ignore these hammerers and sent the knights through onto his flank, smash up 2 units of missile troops, and then by the time his hammerers have got themselves out of the pickle of being jammed up behind the Thunderers, I just turned my knights around and rode back to my lines because I didn't want to take on his hammerers with what I think there was like 2 knights left at the end of it for my general. I did not want them to go into the hammerers at all.
Why would you?
But by then, I've smashed up 2 units of missile troops. My steam tank's come up and taken another one out and is now pestering the hammerers.
This was the problem I was finding, right? I can make this amazing block of hammerers with a lord in it and whatever it is. I can make a really good block of iron breakers. I have to have core at some point, and if I put warriors or longbeards in there, they're pretty good, but they're not beating average line troops. And my opponent can go, I'm going to wait, I'm going to wait, I'm going to wait, I'm going to F that unit up completely, bang everything into it, walk away with a 150 point unit, win, and I'm done. And I'm not enjoying the gun line at all.
I'll send you over one of the lists one of the guys had this weekend.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 units of warriors and a unit of iron breakers.
Yeah.
It had an organ gun, a grudge thrower, and 3 bolt throws. Like, still not. It sounds like a lot of war machines, but actually it's only 350 points of investment into it.
So the joke with my list is I have less war machines than that, right? My gun line is quarrelers with great weapons, or rangers with great weapons, because you come near me and I charge you and beat you in combat.
What this list does, it's got multiple moons of battle on different standards and combinations, and it's got this dwarf BSB that runs between the units with another moon of battle. So before you charge, you pick which one you're going to fight, puts his BSB in the unit, and you're actually fighting at 7 combat res.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of, actually, my dragon goes in and loses by 1, even if it gets the full overkill in the challenge on the champion.
Yeah.
And it's just this really grindy style of list that I'm going to give it a go because it actually looks really interesting.
But I think it's going to come back to the rock, paper, scissors where you come up against that wood elf list and they're like, by the time you've taken your 4 turns to walk, or 3 turns, I think it is, with drill, right? To walk across the list, have you lost enough that you can get back with it if they throw in 5 units of Way Watchers again and you kill the next lot? So I love the fact that it is rock, paper, scissors. But I think at the point I'm at, I will try it because I love iron breakers. Then if I could run 3 units of iron breakers, man, I'm down. But I'm definitely on the verge of I need to get a second army, something that is that isn't slow, and I love melee. That's my jam. So I might end up with like ogres or something, just run at people.
I played trolls for the first time on Tuesday night this week, like playing with, and that's an amazing list to play with.
Yeah,
it is absolutely totally different to anything I've played in this game, and I actually really looking forward to club night again this week, so I get to play it again.
Excellent.
Yeah,
more so than getting the eye of that again at the tournament.
yeah, I've well, I said on the video I did last week, one of the things I'm definitely looking at, I think next army is going to be Orcs and Goblins, which when we've got all of this done and I've got my Empire, what I've now got painted up, Orcs and Goblins will probably be the next thing that I have a look at, because there'll be a completely different play style, and then you've just got the madness of all the weird stuff that Orcs and Goblins bring, so they should be quite a bit of fun and should give us a bit of diversity. Appreciate you just brought up. Sorry, Liam, I know you're about to say so. Appreciate we've only got a few minutes left. So yeah, one of the things I would like to then look at is once we've got this set out of the way for the end of June and we've done our final catch up, is actually do we want to do something for the second half of the year to try and mix it up, do something interesting? I don't know. Perhaps give it some thought. Sorry, Liam, you're about to say.
I say I really rate Orc and Goblins for that reason you just said. Like dwarfs either do combat blocks or gunline, or something in the middle. Chaos Warriors only really go forward. They only have one gear. Empire can do a bit of both things, but overall it's a general rounded army. Orcs and Goblins, there's like no limit to what weird, wacky style you want to play. Want to go Orcav? Go Orcav. Want to play that with blocks of Wolf Riders and Boar Boys, or just 17 chariots? Do you want to take a full monstrous infantry army and have 50 models or 40 models on the board? Do you want to take 2 Troll Hags, 2 Bone Grinder Giant, a Giant and like 2 units of Trolls? Do you want to play with 400 Night Goblins? Like, you can just do whatever you want with that army. I think like if you're ever in doubt of what to play, then 100% give them a go.
I'd love it if we had an Orc army in our local meta.
So I have to challenge both of you, right? Because at Dice Saloon there is about another 15 or 16 players that you guys aren't playing. Chaos Dwarves, there's a couple more Team Kings, there's a full Orc and Goblin, there's another Chaos player. Steve, who you both know at the club, plays Dark Elves. So there are the players, it's just actually getting out to meet them. I mean, you're pretty close to me, Tim, so...
Yeah, I've been to 2 events at Dice Saloon, and I did play a Beast list and a Demons of Chaos list, so yeah. And I'll go to... Every time there's an event near me that I can make it to, I'm going to go, because... Do you go regularly then, Rob?
Well, there's a Discord, but I'll go with that over after thingy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely other players, it's just getting to play them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good shout.
Yeah, definitely something I need to do as well. Certainly with the thing you talked about, Tim. I mean, problem is they're always Saturday mornings. Starts at like 10 o'clock, and I have to plan a long way in advance to free up Saturday mornings. It's a bit of a challenge. But yeah, I think there is a wider community in Sussex we could probably do with tapping into. Appreciate Liam said about time. We've been going for nearly an hour anyway, so I think overall there has been progress, whether it be painting or whether it be actually working out that there's questions we need to answer with our lists and where we're at, and not to get drawn down the horrendous rabbit holes of just put in more guns, which is definitely a slippery slope. I know I was very much on myself with like, I've got a detachment of 5 halberdiers, but what if I made them more guns? Which is just not ideal, really. But yeah, progress has been made. We've only got a couple of months now until the Luke's event in June, so that's going to be interesting to really give the forces a bit of a test. I've got really low expectations for Empire because they just seem to be struggling. It's what the internet seems to be saying, so if I can come out of it with anything other than a complete crushing set of defeats, then that's going to be amazing. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thanks guys for joining me today. Hopefully we'll have a good round of games and collecting in May to talk about as we go into our final preps for June. I don't know if you're going to be able to make it down for the Incursion event, Liam.
I'm still looking at it. I was looking at trains the other day, and there's not a nice, like, for all the train lines in this country, why do we not have one that goes straight down to you guys from where I am?
There is one from Sheffield, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an hour north before I come down.
Okay,
Again,
fair.
no.
I mean, I don't know quite where you are, but that's the only one I know of.
It's a train down
Chesterfield.
from, if you're Nottingham way, it's a train down to St Pancras. You change at St Pancras and get another train, which is actually you walk upstairs from the platform. It's
Yeah,
really easy to do.
the
It
problem
just
is
takes a
that's
couple of
2
hours.
more trains than I really want to get.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm still looking at it. I would like to come down. It's just making sure I've got a full weekend for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. Thank
Yeah.
you for putting this on.
But yeah, thank you again for taking the time out today to join me. Appreciate it. With the bank holiday and everything, you've probably got more interesting things to do. I know, Rob, you've got 1,000,001 Chaos Space Marines to paint, ready for a stream game. So good luck with that.
Not chaos.
I've got 3 Space Marines to paint in time for a 40k grand tournament. That's it. So I'm good.
Not taking the Orc Stodies then.
No, because custodes are not good
Just
anymore.
take them as Orcs. Bully boys.
I'm going to play them. I'm going to play them on Tuesday, and if they surprise me, maybe I'll bring them. But probably I'll just bring my Space Marines because I know how they play.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will hopefully catch up with you over the next week or so with Feed Normal. So there we have it. The April update. A number of games played. We've got a couple of armies that are pretty much done, and some real challenges though still to overcome as we venture away from being either too specialised or just not really getting the most of our chosen specialisation. How will Mayo unfold? Will Tim grasp the nettle and get himself a dragon or two? Will I be able to make the Empire consistently work? And will Rob find a way to not bore himself and his opponents to death with a gun line? Join us next month to find out. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for joining us, not just on this particular video, but also on this whole series. Any comments you want to make, truly invaluable. And if you want to follow this project and other videos that I'm producing, other playlists, then do consider subscribing. It's the best way of supporting a small channel such as this one and for getting notifications when new videos are released. Once again, I'd like to thank you for paying attention, for watching this long through the video, and also to Liam, to Rob, and to Tim for joining me on this particular catch-up. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.